Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Karate Kid Legends. And we're going to talk about the romantic relationship between Li Fong and Mia, the daughter of the owner of Victory Pizza. By the way, spoilers for Karate Kid Legends here, and I think there's a lesson here for Dungeons and Dragons. Wait a second, Scott. What on earth does a kung fu movie have to do with Dungeons and Dragons? Well, the first rule of Dungeons and Dragons is everything is Dungeons and Dragons. All right. So in this movie, Li Fong has a lot of struggles, right? So the first struggle he has, the entire film is just him getting knocked down and then having to get back up. First thing is a year ago his brother was killed, knifed in a street fight, right, and died. And what's even worse is Li Fong failed his brother Bo Fong, and he froze when this happened and didn't defend him. Then in order to assuage his pain from the death of his brother, he throws himself back into learning kung fu under I believe it's his uncle. So I think this is the brother of his father, right? Who actually, almost all movies now, kids have one parent and they don't even remotely explain where the other parent is. They're just like, they're gone. Which is yeah, it's a thing, it's where we're at. And I don't even think it's not even unrealistic. I think it's extremely rare do any kids in America have two parents? I don't think that happens anymore. Right? Yeah, times have changed, man. We just in a different space, very different space. We're just not in the same place we were before. So then he has to leave Beijing and go back to New York when his mother gets a job as a doctor, right? So he goes, and then he gets there, and immediately he's not really received well at his school. And actually, he gets an interest in Mia, right? And Mia is the daughter of the owner of Victory Pizza. And but Mia has an ex, and his name is Connor Day, and he is the best karate master. He is the best karate student in New York City, and he is the champion. He's a multi-year champion of the 5 boroughs tournament, right? And those 5 boroughs are Bronx and Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, and Queens, right? So he is the best martial artist in all of those boroughs, right? And so Connor Day sees that there's a growing romance between there's a possibility for a romance to blossom between Li Fong and Mia, and so he immediately martial arts attacks Li Fong and beats him down hard twice, right? So at this point, then Mia, realizes that things are going well with Li Fong, and she invites him to San Gennaro, which appears to be a multicultural food festival in New York. I've never been to San Gennaro. I've never even heard of it, but they did a nice job with it in the movie. And so Lee goes at the invitation of Mia, but when he shows up, he sees that Mia is flirting with Connor Day, her old ex, right? So the next day he's really upset, right? And he's ignoring her, and she's like, hey, what's the problem? And he's like, well, the problem is Connor. What's going on? And she's like, oh man, and then she says, listen, Connor Day is a mistake that I made. We had a relationship and it went for a while, but then I cut it off. But then last night, he came around again, and he's a mistake that I continue to make. And I was considering, spending time with him, but then I thought better of it. And I told him, no, we're not going to be together, right? And at this point, Li Fong's listening, right? And this was one of the best lines in the movie, and I really liked it, right? So she says, I told him, no, this is not going to continue, right? You're right. I did flirt with him at first, but then I told him, no, this is not going to continue. And then she said, and then I told him, I found a new person. I found a person that I want to make new mistakes with. I thought that is very interesting, right? Like, she didn't say, I found a new person to make everything perfect. I found a new person to make everything better. I found a new person, that is not going to have the problems you had, right? She says, I found a new person that I want to make. I found a person that I want to make new mistakes with. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to say it. And the moment she said it in the movie, I was thinking, oh my gosh, Dungeons and Dragons. All right. So we play Dungeons and Dragons, and we do Dungeons and Dragons. We experience Dungeons and Dragons. We enter into Dungeons and Dragons. We are Dungeons and Dragons. We be Dungeons and Dragons. But one of the things that, if you're like me, right, your life is leaping from one Dungeons and Dragons campaign to the next, right? And there's these interim times where, and I think Dungeons and Dragons campaigns are like rafts. We float over these waves of life, and a new raft comes along, and we leap to the next raft, right? And I think it's important that we're leaping from raft to raft, right? You shouldn't be on the same raft for 10 years, right? I don't think it's healthy. And but we continue to play Dungeons and Dragons, and Dungeons and Dragons is very difficult, right? It's different people have different things going on in their lives. People may be super into D&D, but they just had a child, or they may be super into D&D, but they move. They may be super into D&D, but they get a different hobby that starts to take different amounts of time, or they may fall out of love with Dungeons and Dragons. And this is a thing. It does happen every now and then, and it is significant to understand that this does happen, right? And so then we have to move to the next group of people that we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons with. And I thought this was a much better way of thinking about, because Li Fong and Mia are creating a romantic relationship. We're not doing that when we play Dungeons and Dragons. We're building a trust relationship, right? And I think it's really healthy to think of, okay, I'm going to a new group of people to play Dungeons and Dragons with. Some of those group of people may be from the old, but some might be new, and none might be new, right? It might be some might be from the old game, but none might be from the old game, right? It could be a mix, or it could be all new, right? But I think it's very healthy to think of this idea as, not as, oh, I'm finding better people, oh, I'm replacing the old people. It's a person to make new mistakes with. It doesn't mean the game's going to be better. It doesn't even mean certainly doesn't mean the game's going to be perfect, right? It might not even mean that the game is going to be better, but what it does mean is that you can make new mistakes. You're in a new space, and new things can happen. And I thought that was a beautiful way to think of a trust relationship that was illuminated by a romantic relationship within Karate Kid Legends. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments, send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.